You see, they smiled with poetry on their tongues, fed you hope with glittering words that felt like home, and you believed them. That's where the pain started, huh? Not with the lies, not with the betrayal. No. The pain started the moment you believed. The second you gave in and thought, maybe this time it's different. But it never is. Not in this rotten world full of masks and pretenders. They say all the right things when they want something. And oh, they wanted you when you were naive, when you were wide open, when your heart was still a battlefield of honesty. That's when they showed up. And what did they do? What they always do. Played the part, spoke the script, promised you the moon, and handed you mud. You know what's worse than a lie? A beautiful lie. Because it dresses itself like truth. It smells like trust. It tastes like love. But inside, it's hollow, a trap. And you walked right in, didn't you? You gave your loyalty like it was candy. You gave your kindness like it was free water. And now you're standing there, holding all their contradictions in your hands, trying to stitch your soul back together with the same thread they tore you apart with. That's the joke. That's always the joke. They dress up pain in compliments. They wrap betrayal in affection. And when they're done draining you, they leave like it was your fault for bleeding. You ever notice how the same mouths that told you, "I'll never hurt you," are the ones that delivered the sharpest cuts? They were soft when they needed you. They were present when you were useful. And then silent distance, excuses, the excuses. I'm just not ready. It's not you, it's me. I'm confused. Let me break it to you, raw and unfiltered. They weren't confused. They were comfortable. Comfortable using you. Comfortable taking everything you gave and giving just enough to keep you hooked. Like a dealer tossing crumbs to an addict. And when you finally woke up, when you started noticing how the words didn't match the behavior, suddenly you became the problem. That's how they spin it. That's the play. You point out the inconsistencies and suddenly you're too sensitive, too intense, or my favorite, toxic. Ain't that rich? The same people who polluted your peace call you toxic the moment you ask for clarity. That's the comedy in all this pain. They act like villains, but expect to be treated like saints. They commit emotional murder and then cry when you call them a killer. But here's the punchline. The actions always reveal what the words try to hide. Always. I don't care how sweet someone sounds at 2 a.m. on the phone. I don't care how many hearts they text you in the morning. What matters is what they do when you're in need. What they do when you stop giving. What they do when you finally say, no. That's the test. That's when masks slip and real faces show. You want to know if someone's real? Stop doing what they benefit from. Watch how fast the energy changes. And yet we still fall for the glitter, don't we? Still fall for the soft tone, the fake tears, the promises made under starlit lies. Because deep down we want to believe. That's the real tragedy. We don't just get hurt, we let ourselves get hurt because we hope it's not all fake. But out here, hope without wisdom is suicide. That's why I'm telling you, wake up. Stop judging people by their words. Anyone can talk hell. I can say I'm the Pope. But would that make me holy? Look at the actions. Look at how they treat you when the game isn't in their favor. That's the only truth that matters. And when you finally see it, when the fog of their manipulation lifts, and you stand in the ashes of all those "I promise" and "I care about you" moments, don't go back. Don't crawl. Don't beg. Let them drown in the silence you left behind. That silence, it's louder than any scream. It's your revenge without violence. Your power without a weapon. You don't need to curse them. Life has its own way of balancing books. Just walk away. Let them taste the emptiness they gave you. Let them sleep beside their own cold conscience. Because if there's one truth they'll choke on every night, it's this: their words were beautiful, but their actions revealed the rest. You gave them every part of you. Piece by piece, you handed over your time, your trust, your energy, your loyalty. Hell, even your silence when you should have screamed. And they took it all like it was owed to them. That's what they do. These chameleons dressed in affection. They make you believe you're chosen, special, irreplaceable, until the moment you're no longer convenient, and the second they sense that you've caught on, when your eyes stop seeing the fantasy and start noticing the inconsistency, they vanish. No explanations, no apologies, just cold silence, like nothing ever existed. But it did. You existed. Your effort, your heart, your hope, all of it was real. That's what eats you alive afterward. Not just the fact they left, but that you stayed long after you saw the signs. That's the worst betrayal, the one you commit against yourself. You wanted to believe so badly that you ignored the disrespect, overlooked the delays, justified the indifference. You became your own villain, defending the ones who were stabbing you in daylight, all because their words were soft enough to numb you. That's how dangerous words can be when actions don't match. They become a drug, a fantasy, a prison. You ever sit in your room staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out how someone who claimed they'd never hurt you ended up doing exactly that, without a blink, without hesitation, like your feelings were disposable? That's the truth you weren't ready for. That some people are masters of performance. They don't need to love you. They just need you to think they do. They'll play the part, say what needs to be said, smile in your face while rehearsing their exit in silence. And when they're gone, when they've ghosted you like a memory, you'll question yourself. You'll break yourself into 1,000 pieces, trying to understand what you did wrong. Let me answer that for you. Nothing. You were just available to the wrong person. That's it. You were real in a world where being fake is fashionable. You were constant while they were temporary. You gave long-term energy to a short-term visitor. That doesn't make you stupid. That makes you human. But the second time, that's on you. That's when pain stops being a lesson and becomes a pattern, a habit, a trap. And I ain't here to let you stay trapped. You want to heal? Then stop romanticizing people's potential. Stop telling yourself maybe they didn't mean it, or maybe they're just confused. No, confusion doesn't cause disrespect. Immaturity doesn't justify betrayal. Everyone knows what they're doing. They just hope you'll be too kind, too loyal, or too blind to hold them accountable. And for a while, you were. You let them slide. You accepted half love. You believed in maybes and almosts. But I need you to burn that version of you tonight. Set fire to it. Because you're not weak. You're not broken. You're just tired of being the one who gives more than he gets. You're tired of explaining your worth to people who never deserved to witness it in the first place. And guess what? That's not your burden to carry anymore. It's theirs. They lost you. They lost someone rare, someone who was loyal in silence, loving without demands, and patient beyond reason. You didn't lose them. You lost a lie, a character, a facade that couldn't maintain the illusion once the stage lights dimmed. So here's what I want from you. Don't go back. Don't look back. Don't check their stories. Don't reply to their hey after weeks of absence. Don't entertain closure from the same mouth that gave you confusion. You don't need their sorry. You don't need their explanation. You need you. The version of you that existed before you got manipulated. The version that didn't flinch at red flags or overthink every silence. Find him. Feed him. Build him again. Stronger, colder, sharper. This world doesn't reward softness. It chews it up and spits it out. That doesn't mean you lose your heart. It means you guard it. You protect it. And you never again hand it to someone whose actions don't match the melody of their mouth. Let them write poems. Let them post quotes. Let them pretend. But when it's time to show up, watch them disappear. That's who they really are. Let that be your closure. Not their message. Not their regret. Not their guilt trip calls at 2 a.m. Your closure is knowing you saw the truth and chose yourself. That's the most violent form of healing there is. You see, the world ain't destroyed by monsters. It's destroyed by pretty smiles with poison underneath. It's not the screamers that ruin you. It's the quiet ones who whisper love while loading the gun behind your back. They don't come to kill you directly. No, that would be too obvious. They come to break your faith. That's the real target. And the way they do it? Through contradictions. Through sugar-coated chaos. They tell you they miss you, but never call. They say you matter, but always come last. They act jealous, then disappear when someone else shows interest. It's a performance, a beautifully orchestrated lie meant to keep you hopeful just long enough that when the blade drops, you don't even flinch. You expect it. That's how numb you've become. And ain't that the real tragedy? Not the betrayal, but the numbness it leaves behind. You start looking at love like a scam. Start seeing kindness as manipulation. Start doubting compliments because you've seen how quickly they turn into insults. That's what they did to you. That's the aftermath of loving someone whose words danced while their actions destroyed. And still, deep down, you mourn them. Not just who they were, but who they pretended to be. That illusion, that fantasy version of them, becomes the ghost that haunts you. And that's what makes it hard to walk away. Because you're not letting go of the person. They let go of you long ago. You're letting go of the version of them that never existed. And your heart? It clings to the fake more than it values the real. That's how betrayal poisons you. It doesn't just hurt you in the moment. It rewires you, makes you question everyone after, makes you fear the good ones, suspect the honest ones, and keep your guard up, even when it's safe. That's the kind of damage these people do. Not with fists, but with falseness, with empty promises and disappearing acts, with words that melted like honey and burned like acid. And you thought they were healing you. You thought they saw you. But what they really saw was a chance to feed their ego while making you feel like you were hard to love. But here's the thing. You're not hard to love. You're just hard to manipulate now. That's the shift. That's the evolution. You started off soft, open, warm, thinking everyone deserved your sincerity. And now, you're learning that your peace is not up for auction, that your time is a currency, and not everyone can afford it, that your loyalty is a weapon, and in the wrong hands, it becomes your own execution. You're waking up, and they hate it. They hate that they can no longer play the same games, that their words don't hypnotize you anymore, that their apologies don't pull you back into the trap. You outgrew their manipulation, and that's why they left. Not because you changed, but because they couldn't change you anymore. And now, they watch you from a distance, hoping you'll slip, hoping you'll return to the broken version of yourself that used to tolerate their garbage. But you won't. Not anymore. Because now, you've learned words mean nothing without consistency. You've seen what happens when you believe in someone's lips more than their patterns. Never again. You became the villain in their story the moment you stopped playing the victim in yours. You stopped answering. You stopped justifying. You stopped explaining to people who were committed to misunderstanding you. And that silence, that cold, merciless silence, that's what scares them. not your anger, not your sadness, but your absence, your disconnection, your refusal to keep giving where nothing was ever planted. That's the kind of power they never thought you'd find. And now they talk about you. They blame you. They rewrite history because they can't stand the guilt of what they did. But deep down, they know. They know they had someone rare, someone who would have gone to war for them. And they threw it away like spare change. So now, let them sit with that. Let them feel the weight of their own cowardice. Let them drown in the silence you left behind, because I promise you, no words are louder than the ones they never got to hear from you again. They'll tell themselves stories to sleep at night, you know that? Just to escape the mirror. They'll paint you as the bitter one, the heartless one, the one who changed. Because if they admitted the truth, that they broke something they couldn't rebuild, that they took love and set it on fire for their own amusement, they'd choke on it. So they rewrite it. Make you the villain so they can play victim. That's what cowards do. They can't own their actions, so they bury them under lies and blame. But you lived it, you survived it, and that's what separates you from them. They performed love, you felt it. They used words, you used effort. They played games, you played for keeps. And that's exactly why they ran. Because when you love real, it exposes everything fake in someone else. And no mask survives real love. Not for long. Their energy starts to falter. Their stories contradict. And their patience with your standards, that's the first thing to go. See, a lot of people want to be loved. They just don't want to deserve it. They want the benefits without the burden. And when they realize that love costs accountability, they vanish. They call it growing apart. But really, it's just them retreating from the truth. The truth that you were never the problem. You were the mirror. And mirrors terrify people who aren't ready to face themselves. Your consistency reminded them of their chaos. Your loyalty reminded them of their convenience. Your patience reminded them of their selfishness. And your silence, that was the loudest lesson of all. That no matter how much someone talks, no matter how much they text, post, call, promise, the truth is always in the patterns. And their pattern was clear. Say everything, do nothing. Want everything, give nothing. Make you feel special, then make you feel invisible. They made you chase your own worth while they sat back and watched you collapse under the weight of unmet expectations. And yet, you still gave them grace. You forgave things that should have been deal breakers. You answered calls that should have gone ignored. You explained yourself to people who never explained their own contradictions. But now, that version of you is dead, buried under the lessons they accidentally taught you. And from that grave, something colder, wiser, and far more dangerous has risen. You're not just moving on, you're transforming. You're becoming the person they feared you'd be if you ever woke up. No more begging. No more fixing what you didn't break. No more auditioning for a role in someone's life when you were the entire script. From now on, it's silence over explanations, distance over tolerance, peace over proving. Because the ones who get it, they don't need to be convinced. And the ones who don't, let them go. Let them find comfort in the chaos they created. Let them repeat the cycle with someone else. Eventually, their actions will catch up. Their habits will haunt them. Their fake smiles will fade and reality will punch through. And by then, you'll be long gone, not bitter, not angry, just unreachable. And that, my friend, is the sweetest kind of revenge. Not making them hurt, not proving anything, just healing so deeply they can't even recognize the version of you they once broke. They'll scroll through your pictures one day, see the calm in your face, the fire in your silence, and realize that the person they left in pieces rebuilt himself without them, stronger, sharper, quieter. And when that moment hits, it'll be too late, because you've outgrown them, outlived the pain, and their words, the same words that once kept you hoping, will mean nothing. Because now you understand, talk is cheap, love isn't loud, and truth doesn't need to be explained. It's proven through presence, through effort, through action. And their actions, they already wrote your answer. You just finally decided to read it. And the best part? You didn't even need to scream to make your point. You didn't need to break anything, burn bridges, or go full chaos like they expected. No, you just vanished. Quietly, coldly, clean. That's what eats at them now. That you left without giving them the show. You didn't beg. You didn't threaten. You didn't fall apart publicly. You just watched. You watched them reveal who they really were. And when it was clear, when the evidence was undeniable, you walked. Not with drama, but with dignity. And that's what people like them can't stand, because they thrive off reactions. They need you to lose control. They want you to go crazy, to chase, to beg. Because if you do, they get to feel powerful. They get to feel desired. But when you don't text back, when you don't reply, when you don't even look their way, it shatters them. Because suddenly, they're not in control anymore. Suddenly, they're the one being ignored. And people who thrive on attention can't survive in silence. That's your power now. Not anger, absence, not words, distance. And don't let them come back with apologies wrapped in nostalgia. That's their next move. They'll miss your energy, not because they appreciate it, but because it was fuel. You were a mirror, a comfort zone, a supply of emotion they could run to when the world felt too real. But now that it's gone, now that you've closed that door without slamming it, they'll crawl back with phrases like, "I've been thinking about you," or "I miss how things used to be." Of course they do. They miss the version of you who tolerated their confusion, who explained himself 10 times just to be understood once, who answered messages from people who couldn't show up in real life. But that version of you, he's dead. He died the day you realized that love, without consistency, is just manipulation in disguise. That intentions mean nothing when they're not followed by action. That I love you holds no weight when it's not backed by effort, respect, and presence. So let them mourn the version of you they can no longer access. Let them romanticize the past, but never, ever let them back in to ruin the future. Because here's what they didn't expect. You healed differently. You didn't just cry and move on. You studied the pain. You dissected every red flag you ignored. You faced your own reflection and admitted where you went wrong. Not to blame yourself, but to make sure it never happened again. You learned to speak less and watch more, to trust slower, love smarter, and protect your peace like it's sacred. You built walls, not to block love, but to filter it, to keep the noise out and let only the real ones through. And now, your silence isn't emptiness. It's armor, it's strategy, it's survival. Because in a world full of performers, your silence screams truth. It says, I've seen enough. I know better. I don't owe anyone access just because they once had a key. And that's not bitterness. That's growth. That's maturity. That's the reward for choosing yourself after being chosen last for too long. You don't need revenge. Life will handle that. Time will humble them. Consequences will educate them. Your only job now is to stay grounded, stay focused, stay silent when necessary, and surgical when needed. Don't explain. Don't prove. Just move. Move with discipline. Move with boundaries. Move like someone who finally realized that his energy is currency, and not everyone deserves to spend it. Because in the end, the truth is simple. Their words were beautiful, but their actions revealed the rest. And you? You finally chose to believe the actions. That's what saved you. Now you walk differently. Not slower, not faster. Sharper. You don't speak unless you've studied the room. You don't give unless someone's proven they know how to hold what you offer. Because you've learned the most painful lesson life has to give. Not everyone who says, I care, will show up when it matters. Some people just love the idea of you. The way you love, the way you listen, the way you fight for them even when they're giving you scraps. That made them feel important, made them feel whole, but deep down they never intended to match your energy. They just wanted to feel seen without ever offering you the same vision in return. And now that you've removed your spotlight, now that the warmth is gone, they're left in the cold they created. That's justice, not loud, not brutal, just natural. The same silence they gave you is now echoing back, louder, longer, and without mercy. Because here's the truth they'll never say out loud. They miss you. Not for love, not for connection, but for control. You were their comfort zone, their emotional punching bag, the person they ran to when the world told them the truth about themselves. You gave them softness in a world that only showed them mirrors, and they hated it. Because when someone's not ready to grow, kindness feels like pressure. Presence feels like interrogation. They can't handle being truly seen, so they lash out, pull away, or disappear. And you thought it was your fault, thought you did too much, cared too deeply, gave too often. But the real issue? You triggered their self-awareness. You forced them to see parts of themselves they were hiding from. And instead of choosing growth, they chose escape. And now they wear the victim badge like it's a trophy, telling others how you switched up, how you were too much, when in reality, you were just too real for their comfort. But don't lose yourself in their chaos. Don't let their guilt become your burden. You owe yourself peace. You owe yourself silence. You owe yourself distance from anyone who teaches you that your love is too heavy. Because the right people won't feel burdened by your intensity. They'll feel blessed by it. They won't punish you for caring too much. They'll reciprocate. That's how you'll know. Not by words, not by I love yous at midnight, but by consistency, by effort, by how they treat you when no one's watching. So keep your standards high, not out of pride, but out of survival. Because now you know what it feels like to give your all to someone who never even planned on staying. You know what it feels like to be drained by someone who kept you close, only when they were bored, lonely, or empty. That kind of experience rewires your soul, makes you stop chasing connection and start choosing peace. And don't worry, karma's quiet, but she's never late. One day, they'll meet someone who mirrors them, someone who talks the way they talk to you, who loves only when it's convenient, who disappears at the first sign of struggle. And in that moment, they'll feel it, the sting you lived through, and they'll look back. Oh, they'll remember you, not with joy, not with pride, but with a choking regret, because you were the one who stayed, the one who tried, the one who saw every broken piece of them and still said, "You're worth it." And they threw that away. They fumbled something real. And the universe, it doesn't forget. It brings it back. Not for revenge, but for balance. And when that day comes, you won't be angry. You won't even care. You'll just smile. Not because they lost, but because you finally won yourself back. And when that realization hits you fully, when it settles in your chest, like a storm finally gone quiet, you'll look back and see it for what it truly was. Not love, not fate, not some twisted fairy tale. Just a lesson. A brutal, necessary, soul-carving lesson. One that cracked your foundation, tore your illusions limb from limb, and showed you the raw truth about people. They will say anything to keep you where they benefit from you. Anything. And you were the light in their darkness, the calm in their chaos. You were the one who answered when they vanished, forgave when they lied, stayed when they stopped trying. And that wasn't weakness. That was love. Real, pure, terrifying love. The kind this world doesn't teach anymore. The kind they didn't know how to receive. Because to someone broken on the inside, love looks like a threat. Kindness feels like exposure. And your presence? It stripped away all their excuses. It demanded something they weren't ready to give. Truth. So they ran. Or worse. They stayed just long enough to make sure when they left, you'd be the one broken. That's the part no one talks about. That some people stay just to destroy you slowly. To keep you just close enough to crave more, but never close enough to feel secure. And that imbalance becomes your addiction. You wait for them to care like they used to. You wait for their voice to sound the same. You wait for the version of them that existed in the beginning before the mask cracked. But that version, that was never them. That was bait. That was their hook. And once they knew you were caught, they stopped pretending. That's when the shift happens. The coldness, the laziness, the disrespect, and you justify it all. They're just stressed. They'll come around. Maybe I'm too emotional, but no, what you're feeling isn't delusion. It's neglect. And neglect in love is worse than hatred, because it makes you doubt your own worth. It makes you question if maybe you deserve the silence. But you never did. Never. The real problem was this. You had a heart built for depth, and they were swimming in shallow waters. You were trying to build a future with someone who couldn't even be consistent for a week. You were writing novels for someone who only spoke in sentences. And still, you stayed. Not because you were weak, but because you were strong enough to believe in someone even when they stopped believing in themselves. But now, that strength needs a new direction. Now it's time to believe in you, in your value, in your vision, in the kind of love you give, the kind that heals, that stays, that doesn't flinch when things get dark. Because one day, someone is going to look at you and say, "Where the hell have you been?" And they'll mean it. They won't just say the right words. They'll back them with action, with presence, with clarity. And when that happens, you'll understand why it never worked before. Because what came before wasn't love. It was a test. A test to see how much of yourself you'd sacrifice for people who never deserved your sacrifice. A test to show you what happens when you pour into others without checking if your own glass is full. A test to prove that the world doesn't reward good hearts until they learn how to protect themselves. You failed that test once, maybe twice, maybe more. But now, you're passing with flying colors. Not because you're cold, but because you're calculated. Because you've learned that love without boundaries is just self-destruction in disguise. And forgiveness without changed behavior, that's just permission to hurt you again. So now, when someone shows you who they are, you believe them the first time. You don't wait for the storm to turn into a hurricane. You pack your peace and go. Because that's the version of you they never expected to meet. The version that doesn't need closure. The version that doesn't chase. The version that doesn't romanticize pain. That version, that's who you are now. And that's someone they'll never get access to again. And from now on, every move you make, every breath you take will be different. Calculated, cold, calm. Not because you've lost your heart, but because you finally learned who to give it to. You walk through rooms now, and you don't try to impress, you observe. You listen more, speak less. You don't hand out your time like it's on clearance. You make people earn it. Because what broke you wasn't love. It was the lack of reciprocity. It was you carrying the entire emotional weight while they sat back and collected the benefits. You showed up real in a world that's mastered the art of pretending. And they mistook your effort for desperation, your loyalty for weakness, your patience for a doormat. But what they didn't know is that you remember everything. Every lie, every contradiction, every moment you swallowed your pain just to protect theirs. And now you've gone silent. And that silence is screaming everything you never said. They hear it, they feel it, and it's loud. They're thinking about you now, more than ever. Not because they love you, but because you stopped needing them. That's what people fear most. Not being hated, but being forgotten, being replaced, being nothing in the life of someone who once saw them as everything. And that's what you've done. You've turned the tables. You've become the storm. The one who no longer reacts, the one who no longer explains, the one who sees through the manipulation, the delays, the fake apologies dressed up in nostalgia. They'll try to reach out again, trust me. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day, when the silence becomes unbearable, they'll show up with some recycled words and a trembling voice, hoping your door is still unlocked. But it won't be. Not anymore. Because that door, that version of you, it's gone. Sealed shut by every lonely night they left you on red. Every fake I miss you, followed by days of nothing. Every sweet lie that rotted in your chest the second their actions failed to match it. You don't open old wounds to give people new chances to hurt you. You don't let history repeat just because they showed up with better punctuation. Love isn't a paragraph, it's a pattern. And theirs was chaos. Yours was consistency. And in the end, that was the difference. So don't look back. Don't reread the old messages. Don't visit the places you sat waiting for their energy to feel like it used to. That person you were back then, the one who begged for closure, the one who kept checking their profile, the one who smiled at red flags and called it passion. He was necessary. He was the sacrifice. He was the version of you that took all the hits so that this version could rise. rise. The version that knows better. The version that doesn't settle. The version that won't let smooth words poison him again. You bled enough for people who couldn't even offer you a bandage. Now it's your time to heal. And not gently, not slowly, deliberately. Healing isn't peace signs and soft music. Sometimes it's rage. Sometimes it's closing every door without saying goodbye. Sometimes it's deleting the messages and never looking back. Sometimes it's walking past them like they're invisible, because that's exactly how they made you feel. That's the justice, not revenge, just a mirror. Let them see themselves in your silence. Let them sit in the consequences of their comfort. And you walk forward, head up, heart protected, not closed, protected. Because your love, it's not gone. It's just evolved. It's no longer given to beggars dressed as lovers. It's reserved, guarded. And one day, the right soul will see it, hold it, match it, not because you begged for it, but because you finally stopped offering it to people who spoke beautifully while acting like strangers. And when you finally get used to that silence, when it becomes your shield instead of your prison, you begin to realize just how much noise you were tolerating. Not noise from crowds, no, but noise from their confusion, from their half-love, from their mixed signals wrapped in pretty packaging. Every "I miss you" followed by absence. Every moment they held you close, then pushed you away the second you started feeling safe. That was noise. Emotional static, designed to keep you chasing clarity they never planned on giving. You lived in that confusion for too long, didn't you? Hoped that if you just loved harder, stayed longer, forgave deeper, they'd become the person they pretended to be. But they didn't. Because that person never existed. It was just a mask, a temporary role in a show they put on to keep you invested. And when you finally woke up, when the mask slipped, all you were left with was the echo of their words and the sharp sting of their inaction. And now, they don't understand how you could go so quiet. How someone who used to text good morning, check in, ask if they were okay, could vanish like they never mattered. But that's what they asked for, isn't it? Not in words, but in behavior. That's what people don't get. Silence is never the first response. It's the last resort. It's what comes after too many second chances, after the patience runs dry, after every effort has been ignored, every truth has been twisted, and every vulnerability has been weaponized. You didn't go cold for no reason. You went cold because warm kept getting you burned. And that cold, it's not cruelty, it's clarity. It's the realization that you were showing up for someone who kept choosing absence over effort. And that's the part they'll never admit, that their comfort with your pain was the reason for your distance, that their silence taught you how to stop explaining, that their inconsistency gave birth to your boundaries, because love without action is manipulation. Affection without intention is control. And presence without consistency is emotional starvation. They gave you enough to keep you close, but never enough to make you feel whole. That was the trick. That was the trap. Keep you hoping, keep you doubting, keep you waiting on a future they were never building. And you built castles in your mind with someone who couldn't even lay a brick in reality. But now, that builder's gone. That dreamer has sharpened into a protector. Now, your energy isn't handed out like a charity. Now your love is not up for rent. Now you understand the value of walking away. The moment words stop matching behavior. Because the longer you stay, the more they think their actions are enough. The more they assume they can give you less and still keep your loyalty. That's how people get comfortable ruining you, because they know you'll forgive them until you don't. And that's what happened, isn't it? One day, you just stopped. You stopped explaining. You stopped repeating yourself. You stopped showing up for someone who couldn't even meet you halfway. And they noticed. Oh, they noticed. That's why they linger. That's why they pop up with empty messages and recycled apologies. They want to see if the door is still cracked open. But you sealed it shut. Not with hate, but with healing. You didn't need to announce it. You didn't need to make a scene. You just moved like someone who finally knew his worth. And nothing makes them panic more than that. Because when you no longer need to be heard, when you no longer chase being understood, when you choose peace over proving your side, that's when you've truly won. You're not bitter. You're aware. You're not cruel. You're done being punished for caring. And if that makes you cold in their eyes, so be it. Better cold and whole than warm and wasted. Better alone with dignity than accompanied by someone who drains the life out of you with every broken promise. Let them miss you. Let them replay the moments they thought you'd never walk. Let them drown in the silence they created. Because in the end, they did this, not with rage, not with one betrayal, but with every small moment they made you feel like your love wasn't enough. And now, you finally believe what they never wanted you to know. You were always too much for someone who was never enough.